Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be playing the January 2024 Arena Open event. This is going to be a Lost Caverns of Ixalan limited event, and for day one we're going to be playing Best of 1 Lost Caverns of Ixalan Sealed. Without further ado, let's bust open these packs and see what we get to play with today. Got some decent rares today. Abuelo's Awakening, Bringer of the Last Gift. These are pretty narrow cards, but they can be strong build-arounds if we have a ton of synergies for them in our sealed pools. The Magmatic Galleon and the Pugnacious Hammerskull are the best rares in the sealed pool, with the Galleon being an excellent 2-for-1 removal spell and creature, and the Hammerskull being just a really beefy dino for cheap. So these rares are really nice, these rares not so much. And the Tunnel Grinder is kind of like right in the middle. Like if we play red, we'll play it. If we manage to have descended a few turns in a row, it will be incredible. If not, it's pretty filler. Really depends how the game plays out. So decent looking rares here, but we'll see what we've got in terms of the commons and uncommons. That is going to matter a lot in terms of where we're going to be able to play all of our rares. Like maybe we just don't have enough good red spells to actually play our red vehicle rares. These colorless cards are basically all insignificant. There is a standard and a gnome for splashing to consider. For multicolored, these are also not much to keep in mind. Just the Coot Seal really is the only good one. It's pretty solid for green-white, but not a massive reason to be in the color pair. But I will keep that in mind. We are in an Arena Open event today. These are really high-level competitive events, so my commentary is not going to be as in-depth as normal draft and sealeds. This is definitely a little more aimed towards more competitive players that are already somewhat familiar with the sets. Because I'm going to be going through things not blisteringly fast, but faster than normal for sure. So white, we've got a little bit of garbage here. But stuff that isn't garbage is really nice. Couple Destruction Hammers to put on some 1-mana flyers. We've got a Reliquary for removal. It's only one piece of removal, which kind of sucks, but the cheap curve of aggressive creatures is nice, and Tote works with Awakening, I guess. I guess Awakening works with Deconstruction Hammers as well. I really don't love Self-Reflection, Pirate Hat, Sentries, the Echo, the Relics Roars, just some okay blue stuff. No massive reason to be in the color, but Crewmate can be good with a lot of artifacts. Iceberg, solid value. Needle is solid value. And we've got kind of all the interaction you can have in blue in the set. So blue's fine. In black, we've got Deep Cavern Bat, probably just the best black card in the format. Just the hand disruption being quite nice. But that's it. I mean, this removal's real bad. 5-mana removal, super slow and dirtily. Skull Taker, slow and dirtily. Acolyte, slow and dirtily. Freebooter, the Gnars, the Offering, the Draft, the Defossilize. Like, we can use these cards together synergistically, but I don't know, it's kind of like trying to build a car out of cardboard pieces. Like, we can get them to all work together, but individually they're all real slow. Yeah, I'm not in love with the black here. Red, we do have the Galleon, which is huge. The Tunnel Grinder, which is okay. We've gotten a Braid for great interaction as well. Not a lot of creatures here, but the non-creature spells are pretty spectacular. And for green, wow. Alright. No, this is actually kind of solid. Forgot about the Hammerskull there. We've got Final Strike, which is kind of all you can have for green removal, and then Staggering Slice is actually probably green's best piece of quote-unquote interaction, because it's just a good, efficient combat trick. Yeah, I mean, it's not a massive dino count, but I do like the green as a color. I'm thinking like green-red, green-white, something like that. Didn't have really colorless cards to fill a deck out with. Yeah, I guess green-white gets us the Coot Seal. And again, the red, I hate that I have to reboot the whole deck builder after I've made some cuts to just look at all my cards of one color. But again, the red just doesn't have a lot of creatures. How many creatures does the green have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's 13 creatures, and I want to cut 2 Blade Masters. I'm not in love with that. This is a good creature count and a good curve. It's at 17 right now. And the mana curve does look pretty nice. The Cootseal comes in as well. I do really like the look of that. We've got a Final Strike and a Dusk Rose for interaction. It's a little bit low, but we're not much higher on interaction in red. We just have 2 removal spells with the Braid and Galleon, instead of just the 1 that we're getting out of white, the Dusk Rose Reliquary. Yeah. I kind of like the green-white game plan here. And that's what I'm going to roll with. I think it's our strongest spot to be here. 43 cards. 18 creatures. Cut a landmark. Got some of the 3-drops like an infantry, a scavenger. We don't have a lot of dinosaurs for the Hammer Skull. It's still just like a 3-mana 6/6 defender at worst. Not incredible, but still kind of worth a slot. Obviously, when we do slam down the big 6-mana dinos, then it'll be very good. I really wish we had the white combat trick that untaps a creature, gives it +1/+3, because that'd be really good with Hammer Skull as well. Probably cut some combination of these, definitely the landmark. Probably the infantry, we don't even have tap synergies here. Let's go for the Mistress Pup. Let's keep the Scavenger for a good value play later, potentially. Actually, never mind. We need to cut the Abuelo's Awakening. We're not gonna do that consistently enough with only the 3 artifacts that actually put themselves in the graveyard. Because this does literally nothing unless you have an artifact or enchantment in graveyard, so we have to cut that. So we actually probably play the Pup over that, or was there any other stuff worth putting in? Could splash it in a Braid, I guess. A Compass Gnome on curve. Yeah, I don't really like the other green or white spells that we have access to for swapping it out. Like, it's just putting another Mischievous Pup or a Compass Gnome or Cartographer's Companion. I guess we can go for the really silly Runaway Boulder Abuelo's Awakening combos. That's more silly than it is good. It is fun, though. And honestly, I don't find Arena Opens to be particularly fun, so maybe if I just go full for fun, we'll have a better time. When we do the Boulder Awakening combo. Yeah, sure. And then Archaeologist works with the boulders as well. Maybe a little bit of a bad idea, but we could cut some 3-drops to throw these in and just go for it here. Let's do it. When in Rome, you know. Let's just play a pretty wild deck here. Alright, here's a look at the final deck list for today. We're on a green-white mid-range pile with some fun little boulder synergies going on. So, got a nice aggressive start with some flyers like Miner's Guidewing and Ruin Lurker Bats, some Iron Paw Aspirants to throw some counters onto their flyers, and some Deconstruction Hammers to get equipped to them. So great little early flying damage, plus the Deconstruction Hammers and the Iron Paw Aspirants also synergize with Cootseal, Malamet, Exemplar, potentially giving us some card draw as we poke our opponent. We've also got some other solid 3-drops like Pugnacious Hammer Skull being massive for the cost, and the River Herald Guides Exploring. If they get a counter on themselves, then they also synergize with Cootseal. And we've got some interaction throughout the curve here with Watley's Final Strike and Duskrow's Reliquary for removal, and then some pretty fun stuff at the top end. We've got a few dinosaurs to go with that Hammer Skull, as well as just to play as decent finishers. And then we have 2 runaway boulders, which we can cycle in the early game if we're not going to get the mana for them. And then we've got some synergies for them. Either we can cycle them and then pick them back up with Oltec Archaeologists for value, or the much better version, we can cycle them and then reanimate them with Abuelo's Awakening to turn that boulder into a giant flyer and destroy a creature at the same time. Grandpa back from the dead as a big, angry boulder. So, pretty fun deck for an arena open event. Hopefully it works out well for us, but we'll find out soon enough as we head into the gameplay. Alright, here we are on the play for game 1 with a solid curve. Guidewing into Vanguard into Hammer. And that gives us several turns to draw into some more threats as well. Even if I draw exclusively lands till turn 3, we're going to be fine. We'll have good stuff to do with our mana. Stalactite Stalker, that's a very nice turn 1 from our opponent. I'll drop the Vanguard here, so if they do use removal on Guidewing, we have something on the board to explore with. This Stalker can sacrifice itself to kill either of these creatures right now. They do need a 3rd mana to do that, but later on. That is one of the scary parts about the Stalker. Whenever they don't care about the body anymore, they just cash it in to clear out one of our creatures instead. I'm going to put the Hammer on the Vanguard of the Rose. That is significantly more damage than putting it on the Guidewing. If I don't put it on the Vanguard, then the Vanguard doesn't attack here on this board. Boom, so now we hit for 5. And do I keep it here? I think I'm going to keep it here. Because then if they play a land and tap out to kill one of our creatures with Stalker's ability, they have to kill the Guidewing, which means we hit them for 4 or 5 damage here off Vanguard. But if I move it and their best play is to just sack the Stalker, then we're only poking for 2 for a little while. Instead of like 4 damage if they tap out for that. Alright, so here comes Stalker, which I can't declare a block on because it's got Menace. And they're just going to pass the turn, just hold up that ability. Okay, so that means I don't move the Hammer around or else I'm putting Vanguard at risk. We just attack with both. They cash in, that's cool. Then we hit for 4. Actually, if they cash in the Stalker, it's possible I explore into a non-land card and I still hit them for 5. Idol of the Deep King. That's quite annoying. If they use that on Vanguard. Because then I have to sack the Decommission Hammer, or Deconstruction Hammer. I don't know why I always get the name wrong. I have to sack the Deconstruction Hammer or the Guidewing. But if I do sack the Guidewing, then we're still hitting for 4, maybe even 5. And it's still out of reach of Stalactite Stalker. I kind of think I sack the Guidewing? Sacking the Hammer does put an artifact engraved for Awakening or Archaeologist, which is pretty cool, but... Does this still have the ability to equip if I replay it? I guess it would still be an equipment creature with its equip abilities. Weird. I'm gonna sack the Guidewing here and go for big damage this turn. Yeah, 5 damage this turn and we hit a Hammer Skull. Sure, I'll play a Hammer Skull next turn. Alright. They are down to 9. I do have a 5-drop and a 6-drop. I probably should have milled the Hammer Skull. Oh, I'm still attacking in really well on this board. There's that. I don't know, I guess just playing a 6/6 is kind of just as good as playing a 4/4. And scrying 3, maybe even slightly better, even if it does stun itself when it attacks. Definitely plays better into the Primordial Gnar. You have to double block to get the kill on Hammer Skull. There's the 5th land to play the Archaeologists here. I think I'm offering Hammer Skull trades and then dropping Archaeologist and Scrying. Alright, double block it is. We trade off, they discover. Drop Marionette. Kind of annoying. Death Toucher here. So I didn't want to send in Vanguard because I didn't want to crack the Deconstruction Hammer and then not be able to play Archaeologist, but because we have the Abuela's Awakening, we actually still would have had a perfectly fine curve of spending 1 mana. This is probably the order I want. Spending 1 mana to give Vanguard indestructibility, then spending 4 to make the hammer a 1/1 flyer. Would have been an okay turn. But more importantly, it would have made it so if they did still want to double block and kill Hammer Skull, we would have gotten 5 damage in. And the backup plan was the pretty okay turn. I guess if I attack with Vanguard, I can trade my 4/4 up into a 6/5. Or I trade my hammer into a Death Toucher. I think both of those trades are pretty solid for me. Although if I have to sack the 4/4, I'm not doing anything else this turn. Because I have nothing to Awakening till I sack the hammer. And I can't sack the hammer and still kill Monster Source. So sure, we actually just play Stomper. These are the exact same cards I just left on top. Cavern Stomper forces chump blocks with their Monster Sword if they don't flip the idol, and I don't know if they can. They can't. No artifacts to craft this into the Sovereign's Weapon. So on board, our best play is to make the Stomper unblockable by the Marionette and just attack in. They have to block Stomper with Monster Sword. If they've hit all lands here and they have to just pass turn, then an all attack could be pretty good, but they could also just bluff a removal spell. Pretend they've just drawn all lands. Just go past turn, and then if I do go all in and attack with everybody and they removal spell Cavern Stomper, they then get very reasonable blocks of Monster Sword onto Archaeologists, Marionette onto Vanguard. I guess Vanguard still eats something for free, but then my Archaeologist would get eaten in response, which is quite bad. So I guess to play around instant speed removal, we can send in Vanguard plus Stomper. Those two still send in well, basically no matter what. And I have the mana to use both of their abilities in conjunction. Alright, opponent passes the turn. I'm going to go for the Forced Monster Sword block here. And send in the Vanguard as well. Alright, pretty sloppy game one. Just a lot of extra little lines that we could have done that were pretty cute that I just wasn't even seeing till like a turn later over and over. But overall, still just drew a bunch of beef there and kind of overran our opponent. So solid stuff game one. We are going to be 1-0 heading into game number 2. Alright, here we are on the play for game 2. I like this. I don't actually know which one we're supposed to start with. Probably the lifelinker. But I do want Guidewing to die more, because it does something when it dies. But yeah, the odds of it dying turn 1 aren't great, and if it dies on turn 1, it doesn't actually do something. We have to have another creature on board for it to do something when it dies. So it is probably Ruin Lurker Bat into Miner's Guidewing. Green-white mirror match it is. There's a Cenote Scout on the ground. Hopefully our River Herald guide gets to explore into a non-land, so we've got a 2 toughness creature against the 1/1. If it explores into a land, it is not getting anywhere. Walled off by a 1/1. Tragic. Clay-fired bricks from our opponent. Very good value play. Excellent finisher. Just a gigantic anthem. And some extra 1/1s that are going to be 2/2s because of the anthem effect. Could cast another River Herald Guide, or I can play Deconstruction Hammer, which is a lot of damage right now because we can put it onto our Vigilant Threat and make it able to attack another 1/1, so I am cashing in for some big damage here. And we've got enough lands in this hand. I don't think we're cycling the Runaway Boulder. We only need 1 more to blow something up with that. There's a Petrify on the River Herald Guide. Can blow up the Petrify by sacking the hammer, I guess. It is an option. It's an expensive option, though. I've got 5 mana available, so let's spend 1 of it buffing up the lifelinker here, jamming in for extra damage. Then we're going to spend 3 of it on a threat, I think. Yeah, I'll spend 3 of it on the biggest threat, put it on the Hammer Skull, and then I'm going to move the hammer over to the Guidewing for that vigilance so that on future turns I can attack with it, get the extra damage out of it, and also sacrifice it if I want. Our opponent's just going to concede, so it doesn't matter. We are going to be 2-0 heading into Game 3. Okay, here we are on the play. Ruin Lurker Bat into Aspirant with the Reliquary to sack the Aspirant. That's kind of sweet, honestly. Combos for days here. Plus, when I use the Reliquary to sacrifice something, that's going to trigger the Descended mechanic, letting me scry 1 off of this bat. Alright. Start things off 18-22. Let's go. There's a Subterranean Schooner. That's a great start from our opponent. Explores every time they crew an attack with it. Attacks as a 3/4. Let's Reliquary that immediately because we can, right? I mean, we'll hit for 1 extra point of damage before I do that, but I really don't want them to be crewing that with anything. So I'm going to cash this in and we'll get a scry. Scry into a forest, get that out of here. We are already a little flooded, but I've got a hidden courtyard to help out with that. And I do have a 6-drop in hand, so I will have something to do later. But we need something to do now. We need something that costs 4 or less for next turn. Water, Wind, Scout. Well, thus ends the fun of the Ruin Lurker Bat. I think I still attack into that because the map token can make the Scout a 3/3. And then I won't be able to attack it anymore anyway, and I need to wait 3 more turns before I can kill that with Runaway Boulder. Trade it is, alright. This is basically our, well, 50-50 chance, basically, our last opportunity to trade. Otherwise, that thing's a 3/3 and we never attack him with the bat again. Never actually traded into a creature. That's not true. We could draw into like a Deconstruction Hammer or something and then still trade later. But basically no choice or no chance of ever beating the Scout in a fight, just trading with it at some point, at best. Okay, this is bad. And that is good. Okay. I was going to say, the number of spells in hand here, I'm feeling inadequate. but one Hammer Skull can block all that nonsense. And they're blue-red, so it should be kind of hard for them to kill a 6/6. They could have the Eaten by Piranhas to make it a 1/1, potentially. That's an uncommon. Otherwise, they just put it back in my hand with blue spells. Don't think red's really going to be able to kill a 6/6. Okay, these lands are sorcery speed, right? Yeah. So I have to choose between cashing that in or holding up the mana for Boulder. That's one of the most suspicious things I've ever seen. They probably just want a 2-for-1 themselves because they're ahead in cards, so they can afford to sack Yearling and an Abrade to kill Hammer Skull. So let's not block until I have Boulder up as a trick, I guess. Alright, Cartographer's Companion. Although then, even if I block and I have Boulder up, right, they're just going to go to damage, deal the 3, and then post-combat Abrade the Hammer Skull, so I still can't stop them using... That's not a good draw. Still can't stop them using burn spells as combat tricks, but I can stop, like, combat tricks. Yeah. I think I should probably just cash in the Courtyard. Alright, River Herald Guide's a good one. Finds another land, but still get that 3/1 on the board, and we got the land out of the way. Definitely not on the aggressive here. I'm not going to attack with a Hammer Skull and stun it. I mean, the most likely thing that I can think of here is that it is going to be deal 3 damage and then Abrade. There's a +2/+0 first strike combat trick. They need 2 copies of that to just beat Hammer Skull. I don't know, if I can get this out of the way without losing Hammer Skull, then they don't have attacks even with an Abrade in hand from that point on. So Miner's Guide Wing. Not terrible, but I can't hold up Boulder, but I don't think they attack in here. If they are indeed on Abrade, I guess they can sack their Captivating Cave to put counters on one of these Wanderglyphs, and then they can attack in. Or they can just do Menacing Restless Vents nonsense. Things are 2/3 menace. Okay. Well, we can't let them get another upkeep with that, so we're going to Runaway Boulder that in our turn. I don't have the mana to do it yet. But that's pretty unbeatable. I've got the Awakening. I think I'm supposed to Awakening this then, so I have another threat, rather than just cast it, because it's not going to fall off of my board. I've already cast my 1 Reliquary to sacrifice it. So we cycle it, draw a card, and then we Awakening it as a 2/2. $15 to $21. I'm getting really tempted to attack with Hammer Skull, even though it stuns itself, but I still don't think it's right. Because without Hammer Skull on blocks, I have a 2/2 and a 1/1. They attack me for 6 on the crackback. Hammer Skull stays tapped next turn. Yeah, that's not a profitable trade. I deal 6 to them for them to deal basically 12 to me, because they get to attack with everybody 2 turns in a row. Alright. Counters on the Wanderglyph. You know, honestly, at this point, show me the Abrade. I'll kill a 4/4 and an Abrade here if that is the plan. Yep. Kill a 4/4 and an Abrade then. What a draw. That's a sick one. actually phenomenal. I'll hold on to this just in case of a skullcap snail, plus I get to bluff nonsense. I don't think our deck loses any potential mana by holding this in hand, because I don't have enough card draw to ever hit something that would be like, make it so I needed to have played a land. They draw into removal here off Wanderglyph? They did. Alright, that's pretty good. I mean, we win this race, so we just take it all. I don't think I trade there and leave myself dead to one removal spell. We just slowly outrace them. I guess we don't win the race against the Vents, but they sacked their only black source, so they don't attack with the Vents. So we do win the race. Ooh, okay. Not against Nautilus. I need to hit non-lands. But this game's still very winnable. And they got a lot of value off these Wanderglyphs, ditching so many lands. We're 10 lands down, so there's only 7 left in these 21. 1 out of 3, so 2/3 of our draws are going to be non-lands. Okay, Atali's favor into Cartographer's Companion is an insane start to the top deck war. It's a significant increase to their damage output. And then it's a Sunfire Torch on top, so that they get a +1/+1 counter from the map token, and they have removal for one of our flyers. Well, that's bad. We just die. They just outrace us. We're 10 after that now. Because this is freaking Nautilus. I can kill the Nautilus with the Deconstruction Hammer, but then the Torch gets to kill the Runaway Boulder and I don't attack back basically at all. I could put the Deconstruction Hammer on the Boulder so it's out of reach of the Sunfire Torch, but then I'm dead. Ten life, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and this hits for 5. That's like 12 damage if I don't kill the Nautilus. 14 because they can torch my face too. Back with everybody, torch the Guidewing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 if I don't kill Nautilus. Or if I do kill Nautilus, sorry. They torch Boulder for 7. Crack back for 2. They're at 2 life. I could top deck Staggering Size to win. That's about it. I don't think holding for more blockers is really any chance here of doing anything. Yeah, I think I kind of have to just all in here. So we get to see if they sack the torch when they declare the attack. So before I have to do anything with Deconstruction Hammer, I get to know exactly what they're doing with torch. Which means they are open to misplaying here. If they do the wrong thing, like I guess it'd have to be a monumentally wrong thing, because even if they attack in a way where I can deconstruction hammer something and not die without losing the guide wing, I don't kill them on the crackback because I lose the deconstruction hammer. I crackback for 3 instead of 4. Yeah, no, they'd have to make some kind of really monumental misplay here. Okay, attack all. Are they doing anything with the torch? If they don't do anything with the torch, then our list of outs like increases dramatically. Instead of just staggering size, it's staggering size or the second copy of Deconstruction Hammer or the +1/+1 counter creature. So they are going to sacrifice the torch and kill the boulder. So yeah, now we're just on staggering size or bust. Pretty much. Yeah, I mean, I can block here and blow this up and kill 2 of their creatures, but then I take 5 this turn and 5 next turn. I'm still dead if I'm not top decking like an absolute luck sack here. So I think we have to just go for lethal. I guess this is only 9 damage on board right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I can wait till they pump, but then I kill it. And I have to kill it. Alright, yeah, I do have to kill it if they do that. Alright, come on, top deck. Not much hope here, but there's a chance. 3 life. That's interesting. If they draw dead, we could win, because they can't afford to attack with everybody if they don't draw into something here. Because we go to 1, but I would kill their companion while keeping archaeologists on board, and the onboard archaeologists would get them. We have 8, 9 mana. I can archaeologists and spend 4 mana on artifacts. Not enough to pick up the boulder, which is definitely a bummer. But yeah, we pick up the hammer. Yeah. Wasn't even thinking of this, but if our opponent draws dead, this is also an out. If they draw a land off the top, this wins the game. Unless that land's a swamp, then they just kill me with their black-red land. But we keep that there so that we can go block and kill, block and trade, go to 1, and then kill them with Archaeologist on the crackback if they draw dead. Oh, that is a 2-for-1 off the top. That is definitely not drawing dead. I mean, it's drawing dead enough that we're not dead on board? Wow. Okay. Well, I think we did about all we could here, really. We just got very defeated in the top deck war in the end. That's a pretty big bummer. Alright. Here we are now for game number 4, 2-1 right now. There's the staggering size. Not as good in an opener, but I think the opener's still okay. We've got Guidewing on 1 and Cavern Stomper in the end. We really need to find some filler in between 1 and 6 mana, but I don't think I'm mulliganing basically any hand that has both of our colors in sealed here. Maybe should have just played the forest so they can't shoot the guide wing for 2 points of damage and kill it. Okay, I'm gonna tote before I attack with guide wings, so if it does die somehow, some way, we are exploring onto a creature. Tinker's Tote was a great draw. Oh boy, Sentinel. Super nasty from our opponent. I don't think I can afford to try to block Sentinel with a 1/1 and staggering size, because our opponent's going to have all their mana untapped during their turn. So, like, if they have their own combat trick, we get completely demolished. We lose our combat trick and our creature, and we didn't even get rid of the Sentinel. So I'm not just going to hold up a staggering size here and try to block plus staggering size. I'm going to play Coot Seal here. And this way they really need a combat trick to declare an attack. Whereas otherwise they would have just sent in, and then I would try to staggering size. This way, if they declare an attack, we're like, yeah, they've got a combat trick. Unless they just have removal for Coot Seal, which is also fantastic. Sentinel into a Braid as the first 2 plays from our opponent. Pretty nasty start. And I can't do anything about that. Down to 17 now. But regain that life with the Tinker's Tote. We might have to be on staggering size if we don't draw into anything. On the plus side, if I had just held up to try to block plus staggering size, we would have been completely destroyed by this Abrade, and then have no shot at killing the Sentinel. But Jade Seed Stones also completely destroys us. It makes so we have no shot of killing the Sentinel. Yeah. They know it's a non-land on top, so that thing's a 5/6 now already. All off of its own maps. And we just hit a land. Now I don't even have the blocks. I mean, I could block with my entire board in staggering size if they don't cast Seed Stones, but then that means all their mana is up, and if they have any combat trick, we completely lose the game. Well, mostly tap out for Stone Tree is nice. God, the problem is I have to dump so many resources into killing this one card. This is what's so good about these cheap little card advantage rares like Sentinel. Is that, like, I have to spend like 3 cards to kill that thing, and then even though I finally defeated it, now it's 5 cards in hand to 1. And it's like, what are we going to do from there? We just lose no matter what happens for the rest of the game. Still genuinely feels like my only choice. I think this game's just over, honestly. Just get Sentinel, nerd. So they're still going to kill that. They're still going to kill that. Only one of these is going to survive. Yeah, it's going to be the last gnome no matter what I target with staggering size, so might as well target there. Find another land. Oh god, it's not even a green source, so I can't even Cavern Stomper. Oof. Not our game here. I guess we discover, because if I top deck... I can't cast Stomper unless I top deck another green source anyway, so this 6 land's kind of irrelevant. This Hidden Courtyard. In terms of just as mana. So let's hit a Vanguard, poke for 1. There's the 1 mana removal to kill Vanguard while we're tapped out, and we can't give it indestructible. Very sad. Here's Scampering Surveyor. Excellent value play and mana ramp card all in one. It's mana fixing and ramp. Find a runaway boulder. Don't find Forest 2. I'm pretty sure we're on a 9-7 split, right? Or sorry, 9-8 split. Yeah, close to 50-50 as we can be, but we get 5 white sources before the second green. Make that 6. Let's go. They've got a 6/6 lying in wait, or that's a 5/5. They got a 5/5 lying in wait. They have a 7/7 coming up. Because thanks to that Sentinel, we've kind of just started down like 3 cards. Just got super behind from that, having to trade so much into it. Alright, found the Cavern Stomper mana, which is huge. Because that gives me some really good scry as well. That's not a bad trade at all. Now here's Cavern Stomper. Scry into Watley's Final Strike. I almost feel like I need to ditch that. I guess they're green-red, so they probably can't kill Cavern Stomper yet. I guess I'll keep it. Considering ditching it here, because if anything happens to Cavern Stomper, this Final Strike's going to be useless. Because I just have a 1/1. But if nothing happens to Cavern Stomper, it's going to be pretty good. Such as if I attack in right now and they try to double block. They are not going to try to block. Well, even if they don't try to block, I think I still do this against this gigantic dino. Just hit for 1 extra point of damage. They're down to 7. I'm not going to have the mana for Boulder, whether or not I play the land, so I'll just sandbag it for a second. Poison Dart Frog. Well, I can make it so that can't block the Stomper just by spending the 4 on its ability. But they could give that Death Touch and have a Final Strike of their own, and then they kill the Stomper. That would be really annoying. Alright, well. I guess if I held Final Strike... I don't think it was right to hold Final Strike. Right, because if we're playing around Final Strikes of theirs, we have to kill the 6/5, because then if they untap with a 6/5, then they have their 6/5 Final Strike cards when I try to Final Strike their thing. Yeah, if I held on to Final Strike, we would have went for it in the end step, and then their Monster Sword kills our thing. I guess if we had held on to it and they tried to Final Strike just in the main phase before our end step, we could like reverse Final Strike them and that would have ended up being good, so I don't know. I think main phase Final Strike is still pretty close to correct there. Because we can't control what our opponent's going to do. Like, who's to say they don't just untap with a Final Strike and just hold it there, and we end up going for it in the end step, and then they just blow us out anyway. Gotta slow down the bleeding here if we've got any shot, which I don't think we do, because they've got a 5/5 and a 7/7 coming up, but maybe we do. Yeah, I guess our only shot was just to be completely omniscient with the Cavern Stomper, and for our opponent to go for a main phase Final Strike. Literally just like whoever casts the Final Strike first loses in that interaction. And then they would still be able to potentially win, even if neither of us cast Final Strike all game, because they've got more beef coming out. Like, I wouldn't be able to attack in without Final Striking or Bouldering. Just die if I attack. Why did I even try this game, honestly? Oh boy, that's the second Bonehorde Dracosaur that we've seen today. Yeah, scratch that. Let's move that why did I even try this game to why did I even try today? Just send a message here because we're so absurdly dead. This is the Bonehorde Dracosaur, Sentinel of the Nameless City deck. And who knows what else they've got. That's only half their deck. Multiple Triumphant Chomps. Yeah, double Triumphant Chomp, a Braid. I'm jealous. I'm very jealous. Okay, well, game went so much longer than I thought it would from that early Sentinel start. That put us so far behind. If I were completely omniscient, yeah, we could have found better Final Strike things to do, but I think it's really reasonable to have just gone for it there while they're tapped out before they can have their own combat tricks and interaction, and preventing them from having their own beefy creature to try to do their own Final Strike stuff feels kind of reasonable. Yeah, I mean, we didn't get, like, completely blown out like we could have. So it was not the worst case scenario. Yeah, like, I'm sure we could have played the game out a little bit better, mainly with the Final Strike stuff, if I was really confident that they had that kind of removal in their deck, but I don't think we could win that game, and we were definitely outclassed in terms of the power level of our decks there. But it is worth considering maybe in future games against green how much of a blowout it can be if we hold on to our instant speed removal. Just don't do anything with our instant speed removal ever. Just completely wait until they try to cast a Watley's Final Strike. Like, that was the only possible way I think we could have won that game, is if somehow they went for a Final Strike while we had our own instant speed removal up and we could get the big 2-for-1, keep our big 7/7 around, something like that. I think that would have been really unlikely, but that was the one place we might have been able to grind it out. Again, lots of stuff went wrong. Incredible start from our opponent with a sick rare that put us really far behind, and we were just desperately clawing from that point on, and then they just had so much follow through. So, but that's the one thing worth thinking about for the future. 2-2 it is, though, as we head into game number 5. Here we are for game 5. Both our colors looking pretty great. Got a Lurker Bat into a River Herald Guide to get things rolling and plenty of interaction. Malamet Brawler. I don't think we are cashing in any removal on just a 2-2 here. Let's drop the River Herald Guide. We find a Miner's Guidewing, which is a great draw. Play the Guidewing and the Hammer next turn, or the Guidewing and a Final Strike if they play something that we really need to kill. But it is green-red again, so I guess we could go for the theoretical don't Final Strike unless they're going to Final Strike kind of play. Never mind, that needs to die instantly before it declares a single attack. So we're going to Final Strike immediately, I think. I would much rather Final Strike than Duskrose Reliquary right now, which means no Deconstruction Hammer, which means no attack with River Herald Guide. That's a little sad. I guess I could play Guidewing and sack it to Reliquary, and if I explore into a non-land, make the River Herald Guide 3 toughness to attack into Brawler and get in for more damage this turn. That's pretty high variance though, and probably just pretty greedy generally. If it goes wrong, it's just so much better to have the reliquary for later. Right, like if I just have a land on top of my deck. And the guide's not going to be able to attack in any way. Cavern of Souls on Gnome. Well, that's terrifying. What is it, Dinatomaton, a dinosaur gnome? The little water glyphs, are those gnomes? No, they're golems, right? I don't actually know what's a gnome and what's not. Scampering Surveyor's a gnome, I think, the 4-drop. Okay, they needed a white source for this gnome. Maybe. Okay, now they're just going to play a Pathfinding Axe, draw Dino, that's fine. Okay, ooh, Hammer Skull. I can hammer up the guide and then it trades into Axe Draw, or it gets in for damage. Or I can just start hitting for 3 a turn in this guy. Instead, I'll also just play a Hammer Skull and hit for 2 this turn. I think that's reasonable. Let's just hit for 2 for now to play the Hammer Skull and have that on board. And now the Hammer's on board as well, so I only have to spend 1 to equip that in the future instead of 2 having to play and equip it to get it going. Old tech archaeologists. Probably end up with a decommission hammer, or deconstruction, I swear. Deconstruction hammer in my grave soon enough. I put this on Hammer Skull. They have to cast Instance here. Or just take 7 from it, because their double block doesn't even kill this. Double block plus a Braid the Hammer, maybe? I would still be just jamming with that, honestly. They might have like Staggering Size or something. +3/+3 to the Axe Draw is the play. So let's put the Axe Draw up front so we still kill that if they Staggering Size. Ancestor's Aid? Alright, still kill that. Either way I ordered this, we still kill both. So that's a 3-for-1? 3-for-1 trade from the Hammer Skull, let's go. We take those. Yes, I just put this on a flyer. Scry into land 5 for archaeologists. Should probably put it on the Vigilant flyer, because again, that can attack and also sack the hammer later. Full Tech Cloud Guard. And Triumphant Chomp, the River Herald Guide. Well. Boop the Cloud Guard, and then I can play Archaeologists on the hammer next turn. And I get to scry off the bat. Find a Tinker's Tote. Still would rather pick up the Deconstruction Hammer than the Tote. Sanguine Evangelist. Well, I'm very glad I get to pick up my Deconstruction Hammer, because otherwise this 1/1 bat would be tremendously annoying. Still got a great battle cry, and it's still going to give them another bat when it dies. But we will be able to find attacks here. Jade Light Spelunker Explore 6, our opponent says. Land, Watley's Final Strike. Keep that on top. That means the Spelunker is a 5/5, and they drew 2 lands off of it. Pretty great card. Now they just Final Strike. I guess I put the Deconstruction Hammer on the Guidewing. Ooh, Abuela's Awakening. That's good with a Tinker's Tote. So I guess I put the hammer onto the Guidewing, so if they want to Final Strike the bigger flyer that's actively hitting them, they have to Final Strike the flyer that gives me value when it dies. And then I can just move the hammer to the other flyer anyway. I guess they can Final Strike the Archaeologist so they can try to get some counterattacks in here, but the life totals are pretty lopsided. Brass's Tunnel Grinder. Discard any number of cards, draw that many, so discard 1, draw 2. Well, they draw that many cards plus 1. They are gonna Final Strike the life-linking flyer. Let me keep the Guidewing. Alright. Stay aggressive here. Let's get another 2/2 flyer. Thanks to Abuelo's Awakening. And I guess we get a bunch of gnomes as well. That part is less important. I guess it really makes sure they don't outrace us. Capybara coming in. I don't hate just going for a trade here. I guess that means they've descended towards the Tunnel Grinder, which is not good, but I can blow this up when they try to get to the third counter. Oh, what a discovery. Find the Idol of the Deep King to kill one of our 2/2 flyers, so they kill the Tote. Since the Guidewing's technically just a 1/1 flyer. And yeah, the Tunnel Grinder's at 2. If the Tunnel Grinder flips, it is going to win them the game. Because then every time they cast anything, they discover equal to its mana value, which is completely disgusting. Yeah, maybe I should have just blocked Capybara with a 1/1, but even if I did, they cracked the Hidden Nursery, so they would have still descended towards the Tunnel Grinder. So that was actually just completely irrelevant. Send in the Brontodon. No blocks. Brontodon's awkward, because now if I attack into the bat, they can sack and kill my Deconstruction Hammer. Oh, they can actually just kill the Reliquary. That's true as well. And either way they play it, the Tunnel Grinder flips and takes things over, discovering all over the place, so we have to kill that. Ooh. Well, now we're actually just really losing. I don't think there's really much we can draw into here. The board's just way too wide now. Yeah, now they can just keep moving this knife back and forth. Yeah, it doesn't actually do much at this point. I guess it kills the knife, so they really only have the cloud guard hitting me in the sky, but if they just start attacking me on the ground, I'm gonna die. Plus they can just abrade the guide wing, because they hit that on top. Well, at least it's the land that discovers. I was going to say it would be very surprising if they're still not attacking on the ground. Battlecry is a pretty strong mechanic. I was like, oh wow, that's a massive attack. Yeah, it is. Again, it really doesn't matter at this point. Nothing we draw into wins the game, even with the perfect sequence of draws against the worst sequence of draws, so I'm just going to stop spending brain energy on it. Go for the blocks that come naturally, and hopefully that just means I'm dead. Yeah, cool. Alright. Could have stopped a little more damage there with just exclusively chumps and then tried to top deck something, but there is nothing that we can top deck to get out of something like that. And that's going to end the Arena Open run. That is 2 and 3. Kind of a bummer. I think the deck was a little better than that. It had some pretty fun combos. We got to Abuelo's Awakening a couple times, which was pretty cool. But, I mean, we were really just getting ran over by insane card quality for the most part. I don't think our sealed pool in general could compete that well unless we went for a 3-color deck and drew perfect mana, but our strong red cards are really just Magmatic Galleon and Abrade. Abrade's definitely splashable, but Galleon costing double red means it's going to be a really inconsistent splash, because we need to hit 2 sources of the splash color off of just like a Captivating Cave and a Promising Vein towards red here. Maybe a Sunbird Standard as well. Maybe play green-red at the core, splash in the white instead, something like that. But I don't think our red was deep enough to just go red at the core over white at the core. I don't know. I still think we ended up with one of the better decks we could have made. Obviously, there's a little bit of just fun nonsense. These 3 cards being the main fun nonsense pile. Everything else, though, I think is pretty much, you know, the strongest cards we could do in green-white and just in the sealed pool in general. But yeah, I gave it a splash of fun nonsense. I don't think we were losing because of the fun nonsense. I think we were just getting outclassed regardless. So I'm still pretty happy with how I built the deck. I think it's one of the better decks we could have ended up in for sure. And it was a lot more interesting than just playing a bunch of bad red cards to throw in the Galleon. And I think it probably performed just as well as any other deck would have done on average. We just ran into some absolute bangers from our opponents. Not much you can do about that one. That is all my gold gone and all my time gone for today. So that is going to end this Arena Open run at 2 and 3. Unfortunately, no day 2 this time around, but on the plus side, that means we don't have to play Lost Caverns of Ixalan anymore. We get to play whatever they're rotating through for flashback drafts, as well as Murders at Karlov Manor and cube drafts coming very soon. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video and are interested in seeing more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.